2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 more. Last stitch. 1, 2. Okay. Now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that last double. And you want to leave, it doesn't have to be that long, but somewhat of a tail so you can sew this closed. So cut the tail and tie it off and pull it through. We're going to go ahead and make the other hand, and then we will sew them together. So there's one. Now I'm going to make the other one. So same process, magic circle, chain 2. Double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, close that up, tuck the tail back, and we got 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Should be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Slip stitch to the first one and pull in your magic circle. Okay. So now we are going to chain 2 and put an increase in each stitch around. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it will feel a little stiff. You know, we're using a smaller hook, so our yarn is going to be tighter stitched. No biggie. We want it to be tight, especially for the doll portion when we get to the head, so that our stuffing doesn't show. 2 left. Got 4 stitches. 1, 2, and 2 more in this last stitch here. 1, 2. Once again, when you're making the hands, you are going to leave a somewhat long tail. You'll learn as you make these how long your tail needs to be, so that you don't waste so much yarn. And so we tie that off. So now we have our 2 hands here that we are going to sew to put together. So get your needle, and on that long tail at the end, go ahead and put that on. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold this in half. So here's the right side, here's the wrong side. You're going to fold it like a taco. Okay? I just hide the tail in there, the beginning tail. And then we're going to sew it closed, kind of like a Venus flytrap. Blah, blah. So right here, just take your needle, go through the stitches. And what I'm doing, I'm just slip stitching through with my needle through every stitch. Just line them up and go through there. You're just gonna stitch across there and stitch it closed, kind of like a empanada. There we go. So we're to the end, it's closed. Just make you a little knot, tie it off. This end is going to be hidden in the sleeve. So I just tie a little knot and then cut that tail so that it doesn't find its way out of your work. Doesn't have to be long, but don't make it too short because you don't want it to work out. And so that's one of the hands. So let's go ahead and sew the other hand shut. Won't take long. Takes just a couple minutes. Once again, we're going to fold it like a taco. Hide that tail in there, just tuck it up in there. Nobody will ever know, except for the people that are making this along with us, and that's okay. Then we're just going to sew it shut. You can use any method that you prefer on this. I've tried the blanket stitch, kind of leaves a little ridge that I didn't think would be kid friendly. Like, I think it could cause loops to be more likely to get snagged. So this lies pretty flat against the body of the crochet, so we shouldn't have any issues with it getting snagged. So just all the way across there. Boop, boop, boop. Almost done. One more. Bam. Okay. So we're going to tie that off. No big deal. It's going to be hidden in the sleeve, so we'll put just a tiny little bitty knot in there. Pull it tight so it doesn't come undone. And cut it off. Okay, second hand. Now let's attach the hands to the sleeves. So I have sleeve here. We have our tail at the top for sewing it on and our tail at the bottom at the cuff. And so we're going to use this long tail at the bottom. We're going to use it to tack the cuff down as well as sew on the hand. So I've got my needle threaded. Our cuff is folded up at our front loop only row, so there are 2 rows up. I'm going to just tack it to the sleeve right there where it's folded up so it'll stay tacked. Just a couple little in and out to hold it in place. That way that sleeve won't roll down later. Then we're just going to feed our yarn through the stitches to the bottom. You don't have to pull it tight. It doesn't need all that. And then we're going to stitch the sleeve closed like this. We're only going to do it halfway. So just pull those stitches together. It doesn't have to be tight. You just want to have it together so it doesn't come open. About halfway. And then we're going to take our hand and the end that we tied off, we're going to stick it in that sleeve halfway. So it's inside there. And then we're going to sew it this way. We're going to make sure we're going through the hand and catching stitches of the sleeve on both sides. And we're going to go back and forth and stitch that hand into that sleeve. Just make sure you're getting through all the layers and catching the sleeve and the hand on both sides. Okay. You got one more stitch for the sleeve at the end after the hand is attached. So now your hand is in there. It ain't coming out. Feed your yarn up the other side of the cuff. Doesn't have to be tight, it's just got to be in there to hide it. And then tack that stitch, that cuff to the sleeve on this side. So a couple little in and outs to tack that cuff down. And then you want to hide your tail. I am going to hide my tail right here in these stitches in this row, just like this. Just make sure you don't pull it tight as to put any strain on the stitches. And you want to go back and forth about 3 times to get a good weave in. Okay. Cut that tail off. And there is one sleeve with a hand attached. Okay. So let's do the other one. Here is my other sleeve. It has the long tail for sewing it on, and it has a long tail for attaching the hand. So thread the needle. Make sure your cuff is folded up at the front loop only stitches, and tack that cuff to the sleeve. Couple little stitches in and out. Make it stay up and not come unfolded. And then I'm going to feed my yarn down to the edge there. Okay. Now we are going to sew this halfway shut. Only halfway because we got to put our hand in. Okay, one more. There we go. Take our hand with our tail and stick it in there halfway. You just want half of it hanging out, and then stitch it to the sleeve. And I'm just going in and out either side. Nothing too fancy. It doesn't take a lot to hold it. And then that final stitch at the beginning. Okay, so that hand is attached. It's in there. Feed that tail up that cuff and tack down the other side of the cuff to the sleeve so it doesn't fold down. And then we're going to hide our tail right here. Bam, bam, bam. Weave that in. Make sure you're making 3 passes so it doesn't work its way out. Bam. And cut off that tail. So there's our second little hand. Okay. All right. The next video that I make will be the last. It will be making the head and stuffing it in eye placement for those safety eyes. You can embroider eyes on as well. A lot of people prefer that. Or you can make some little black circles. You might do 6 single crochet in a magic circle and cinch it up, and you can sew those on. I like the safety eyes, and as far as this Yoda baby goes, the bigger the better. I'm not sure what size these are. I have 3 different sizes in my box, but they're not labeled, and so I just went with the biggest ones. I like the way they look. So the next video, you'll need green for the head and the ears, and then safety eyes and stuffing. Okay, you're also going to need a small piece of tan. We're going to use this to sew the head on. So I will be back. I'm going to take a short break, and then I'll be back with the 3rd video.